Have you ever stopped to think about the true value of your vote? And really, your voice in a democracy? It's one of those big questions we kind of just gloss over in our day-to-day lives, but think about it for a second. Before we even get into the weeds of laws or politicians or how the state operates, we have to start with your inherent power as a citizen. How exactly does your individual voice actually translate into real systemic change? Well, hey there, and welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here with us today. We are going to map out a pretty incredible journey derived from some really fascinating source materials. We're going to explore everything from the fundamental human rights you're born with to the massive institutions designed to protect them. And finally, we'll unpack a visionary economic concept proposed in our sources known as the Justice Peace Manifesto. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll start off with human rights and courts, move into the 4 pillars of democracy, and then check out the Election Commission. After that, we'll shift gears to education and skill, dive into that Justice Peace Manifesto, and finally wrap up with a look at employment over freebies. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, Human Rights and Courts. To really understand the state, we have to look at the foundational protections every single one of us is born with and exactly how those protections interact with the justice system. Now, our source uses this absolutely brilliant metaphor here. It says, human rights are your microphone, and the courts are a gun. Think about that. The mic gives you a voice to question authority, to rally support, and basically build immense societal pressure for long-term change. The court, on the other hand, holds the ultimate immediate power to issue hard orders, enforce the law, and punish those who break it. You need the mic to make sure you're heard, but you need the gun to actually enforce the rules. And sitting right in the middle of that dynamic, we have the NHRC, the National Human Rights Commission. Our source describes the NHRC in a really cool way. It says it's like a security camera equipped with a blaring loud siren. It doesn't necessarily hold the gun to throw someone in jail itself, but man, it acts just like the press. When human rights are violated, that NHRC siren goes off, recording the wrongs and basically forcing the government to answer for abuses. It creates this undeniable pressure that literally cannot be ignored. Moving right along to Section 2, the 4 pillars of democracy. So how does this all build into the broader framework of the state? Well, picture a healthy democracy standing on 4 massive structural pillars. You've got the legislature making the laws, the executive implementing them, the judiciary ensuring justice is served, and the press constantly questioning it all. This setup provides a vital system of checks and balances. It's designed so that no single entity ever holds absolute power. If one tries to dominate, the others naturally push back. I really love this analogy straight from the text. Democracy is the game, and the court is the umpire calling the outs. It's perfect, right? If the government, the players on the field, overstep their constitutional boundaries, the judiciary steps right in as the neutral referee. It blows the whistle and keeps the whole game fair. Which brings us to Section 3, the role of the Election Commission. Okay, so if the courts umpire the laws, who on earth umpires the elections themselves? Enter the Election Commission of India. Our source actually calls it the third umpire. Established under Article 324 of the Constitution, this institution has a massive, absolutely crucial job. It conducts free and fair elections, prepares accurate voter lists so your vote actually counts, recognizes political parties, enforces the strict model code of conduct, and constantly maintains vigilance against the influence of money and muscle power. The text doesn't mince words here about what would happen without this third umpire. It argues that elections would just be totally dictated by wealth, corruption, and fake votes. The party in power could just bend the rules to stay in power forever. Without this institution, the citizen's vote becomes entirely meaningless, which ultimately leads to the death of democracy itself. Let's switch gears for Section 4, education, skill, and career. Let's zoom out from those massive state institutions and bring this back down to you, the individual. How do you build a future so you can participate effectively in all of this? Well, there is a huge difference between having an education and having a skill. While degrees grant you entry into a room, it is specific, specialized skills that actually guarantee your success. A teacher needs a degree, sure, but it's patience and communication that make them great at their job. A doctor needs an MBBS, obviously, but emergency handling and precision are what actually save lives. An IAS collector needs a degree, but leadership and hard work define their career. Basically, education gets you the interview, skills get you the job. And our source material identifies 5 foundational skills that it says can ensure a 90% success rate across almost any career path. We're talking about strong communication, basic computer literacy, problem solving without panicking, staying updated on current affairs, and emotional intelligence, things like teamwork and anger control. These aren't just buzzwords. These are the practical, everyday tools of an empowered citizen. Now we're getting to the really fascinating stuff. Section 5, the Justice Peace Manifesto. Moving forward, our source introduces a very unique conceptual framework. This excerpt from the manifesto advocates for a massive paradigm shift. It proposes a system of governance based entirely on knowledge, skill building, and human dignity, rather than just leaving citizens to fight for mere survival. It's essentially asking the state to step up in a completely different way. The manifesto outlines 5 basic rights that it argues the state must guarantee, and it emphasizes these should be constitutional duties, not just charitable handouts. First, an education system that is 50% theory and 50% practical skill, totally eliminating the concept of a failed student. Second, free healthcare with a 10-minute emergency response time. Third, customizable housing ownership. Fourth, full state responsibility for orphans until age 18. And fifth, direct pensions for elderly welfare. It's a highly comprehensive safety net designed entirely around protecting human dignity. And that leads perfectly into our final section. Section 6, Employment over Freebies. This is perhaps the most radical economic aspect of this text. It's the ultimate vision of transforming temporary welfare into permanent wealth generation. The core idea here is that no individual's potential should ever be wasted. The manifesto wants to shift the entire economy from a model of dependency and consumption straight into one of active, dignified production. It proposes achieving this through a really interesting 2-phase system. Look, when people are starving, freebies are absolutely necessary for phase 1 survival. That makes sense. But phase 2 is all about dignity. Once a citizen is matched with a skill and placed in a job, those freebies stop. Instead, the government provides salary top-ups to ensure a dignified living wage, bringing incomes up to a guaranteed baseline, like 25,000 rupees. So, how exactly would this work in the real world? The document proposes an incredibly detailed, highly decentralized human resources mechanism. Imagine a village HR department that registers the specific skills of every single local resident. Then, a Mundal HR matches those skills to local business needs. Finally, city and country HR departments connect those workers to larger industries and even global opportunities. The manifesto essentially proposes a guarantee. The state must find you work within 30 days, or else trigger an unemployment allowance. The whole economic philosophy boiling down here is pretty straightforward. True economic value thrives when citizens are stress-free and productive. If everyone is utilizing their skills and earning a fair wage, well, the GDP naturally boosts, tax revenues go up, and the need for widespread political freebies becomes completely obsolete. To sum up this conceptual manifesto's entire vibe on welfare and employment, we can look at this powerful adaptation of a classic analogy from the text. It says, the state shouldn't just give you fish. It should teach you to fish while ensuring you don't starve while learning. It's this really delicate, thoughtful balance of compassion and long-term empowerment. So as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a direct challenge based on everything we've just unpacked together. From human rights acting as your microphone, to the courts and election commissions ensuring fair play, right down to the skills you build for your own future, think about the social contract we all share. Are we ready to evolve our democracy from simply demanding survival freebies to demanding dignified employment and true empowerment? It's really a question about how you value your own civic power. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and hey, keep asking the big questions.